Welcome to the next edition of our big broadcast. We are live, coast to coast, border to border on iHeartRadio today. Also, AMFM, 247.com. Tune in, iTunes. You can find us on Spotify as well. And we have got a great guest with us today. Before we get to him, we want to tell you about our website. Of course, it's jiggyjaguar.com. We want you to go over there and check that out. And also the mic.fun for all our musician interviews. Go over to themic.fun for more information. And welcome to it. It is the next edition of our big broadcast, the Tuesday edition. And we have got a great guest joining us today here on our big broadcast. He is phenomenal. Ross Flora is with us. Ross, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Jiggy?
Pretty good, actually. Talk to us a little bit about how you got started doing the music thing, man, because you're incredible.
Oh, thank you. I grew up, got started at an early age, singing in church, came up in a musical home, lots of instruments laying around the house. We had a full piano that was, sitting there all the time that I used to play with as a kid, and started taking real lessons there around age 7, and then started playing guitar. My dad's a keyboard player, bass player, and guitar player, and he had made a life of playing music. So, like I say, we had gear everywhere, had a little studio in the basement, that I'd run down there, and so I was submerged in that world from a very early point, and so just kind of took off. It was kind of just felt natural, and something I knew I always, kind of knew I wanted to do that from an early age. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So when you started doing this whole music thing, what were some of your goals with doing music?
Initially, it was a fun thing me and my dad spent time doing. We spent hours just jamming when he'd get home from work, and, I was home from school. And so that was initially what really caught me and made me love it, was just that time spent in that language we were speaking, and, without words. And then from that point on, it kind of, my dad set me down at an early age. He was like, would you like to make this a profession? He was like, I think you got the chops. He was like, continue, you keep working hard. He was like, you've got what it takes. So, so that kind of pointed me in the direction, got me focused. At 14, 15 years old, I was like, wow, I might be able to actually do this for a living. And, if the cards fall right, to do this for the rest of my life. And so that was, got me in gear, got me focused. And so I mean, pretty early on, I was thinking long haul for this. But
so, who were some of your musical heroes and influences?
All time would be Greg Allman, top of that list. Allman Brothers awesome. In general, but especially vocally, Greg Allman. Then I always felt in love with Frank Sinatra's voice and just the control they had. Yeah, so that's a random one, but especially in the Southern rock thing. But I always loved researching him. I ended up, all my reports in high school and college were, just digging deeper into his upbringing and how he used to sing and stuff. So that always intrigued me. I feel like I learned a lot from him. And Chris Cornell would probably be my third biggest influence, singing wise, especially. So it's that dude just. The soul he puts out there and the range, that dude could hit some high notes. And, he was just incredible. So.
Yes. Chris Cornell was phenomenal. We have got a great guest with us today. Ross Flora is with us here on our big broadcast, coast to coast, border to border on iHeartRadio. And, of course, you can find us each and every day over there at jiggyjaguar.com. So you have put together a lot of great music here. Where exactly do you see everything going for this year for you?
This year, I hope to, like say, Cannonball just released last Friday, so April 8th. And then with that going, I've got an EP coming out hopefully in the middle of June. We're in the PR kind of stage of that right now. So things are recorded, ready to roll. But like I say, we're just going to get the ball rolling with that a little bit. And going to I'd like to latch on and hit some festivals in the fall, but I understand if it's, those get booked up pretty early. So if not this year, then I'll definitely be out and about in the spring of next year, and traveling as far as I can and doing as many shows as possible, and living the dream there. So
So what is your
Also,
what is your songwriting process like?
it goes from sometimes it's easy, like Cannonball was one of those songs that just kind of came together. The guitar riff, I start out usually with a guitar riff, and then kind of hear what the attitude of that guitar riff, is, and then that usually gives me some inspiration of what I'd like to say from the song. And like say, sometimes they come easy, it's like Cannonball was a pretty, just kind of fell into place. I was blessed with that, but a lot of the times you got to work and struggle, and it takes a long time, and until you get where you want it, and days on end, you got to put it away and come back at it fresh the next day a lot of the time. So it's a little mix of everything. I've started with vocal lines before. I've started with a vocal melody that I wanted to write a guitar part around, and then the words, and just about every way possible. But usually it's the guitar riff first, and then like say, I'll kind of feel the attitude, like I was saying, of what that part would, what that part's saying to me, and then how could I, express that verbally,
So when you're out there doing your thing, what's kind of the reaction that you get from folks?
Well, playing in Nashville, it's the Shark Tank is what I always say since I've moved here. It's just the amount of killer musicians just running around down the street, even people that just like work in the bars and work in any industry around here. Sometimes there's a good chance that they're a better player and singer than you are on the stage. And I've definitely experienced that, getting some folks up and being like, oh, we definitely need to change places here. But so that being said, the reaction is, usually I always say the best reaction whenever I'm playing live in town is the best compliment you can give me as a musician is to spend your hard-earned Nashville time listening to me, because I know how incredibly talented the folks are around town. And, if people sit there for an hour or two and listen to you, I mean, that's a huge compliment.
Yes.
And right there. So I never take that for granted. That's a huge thing for me. So
yeah, because they're making that commitment.
Mm-hmm.
To
and a lot of folks, they're spending their vacation time, they're a couple weeks, they're spending some of that time here to listen to you play music, and and to hear other people play music. So I take that seriously and try to give them something that they'll remember. And
Ross Flora with us today. He joins us live here on our big program. And so social media, where do you primarily focus that?
Right now, the Instagram, I think, is the most pertinent way to get information out there and stay in touch. But, it's constantly changing. It was Facebook, so I have a Facebook page, have an Instagram page, have a YouTube channel, have a website as well. That's, if you can reach out, email through there. You get the full picture on the website. So,
Fantastic. So, what do you post on social media? What is some of the different things that you do?
Usually, most of my life is immersed in music. So it's I try to do some behind the scenes stuff of where I'm recording and where and how. But a lot of it's a lot of gig shows and stuff. We'll repost if we're playing a show and somebody takes a video and tags us in it. We always encourage that, so then we can repost it. And, just from anybody's point of view, usually I see the video, I'm like, oh, I remember that person. They had their camera up over on, stage left over there, about 20 people back. And so that's usually what we're posting on there. I'm not crazy. Social media has been a kind of a struggle for me. It didn't come naturally to kind of, open up, and I am a little bit more private, in my life and stuff. But, and honestly, I just didn't think I did very much interesting. It was always a thing. Like,
people
were like, hey, you got to post all the time. I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, they want to post me, so I just never took myself that interesting. But I'm learning to do that more and more now. So thanks to the encouragement I'm getting from folks on there. So I'm like, all right.
So, what do you do as far as, do you do any vocal warm-ups when you're getting ready to do this music thing? Anything at all?
Usually vocally, I learned a trick from an opera singer randomly that back in Roanoke, Virginia, that I was passing through. She was doing this thing, and she just hits the lowest note she can possibly hit, the resonant note, just like real low, and then just kind of makes as resonant as possible, pushing as much air as she can on that lowest note. And usually that'll shake everything up, like you'll clear out your voice. And that's about the only vocal warm up I do, but I'll do that for a couple minutes every morning. And, or especially before a show, if I'm in the car driving to a show, I'll do that for a little while. And, other than that, I just have a set list. I usually start off, if I'm playing a cover set, I'll start off with like Ring of Fire, which is a kind of a lower song, so I can really get into that resonance in my voice. And that's where I mainly draw most of my power singing vocally is from that lower register, and that bass tone. So if I can, get that, the first two songs I usually do will be some lower songs. And then from there, it's, all bets are off. Then, you can start taking off and climbing up to some higher notes.
Ross Flora with us today. He's got Cannonball. We're going to hear that here in a few moments. So what's the last time that you performed in front of a huge audience? I know that with COVID and everything, things are starting to kind of open back up finally and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. It has been a while. I guess what we get... cool story would be the last time I looked at when we were doing the live streams during the shutdown. I had a friend that would come over in our backyard. We'd just do some live streams because, we were used to playing every day in front of people. And it was like that part of your life is hard to shut off, So like most musicians, like most working musicians that relied on it for a living, we did the Venmo, PayPal, thing, and we went the live stream route and posted on Facebook Live and a couple Instagram Live, I think, or whatever the Instagram equivalent is. And and we started just doing those live. And I remember one time somebody ran up because we had the iPad up there and we couldn't see it. It was to get us both in the shot. And they were like, "There's a lot of people on this thing watching right now. I think it went a little viral on you." So that was kind of shocking because we were sitting there playing, in our backyard to, all my roommates and my friend that we were that was singing with me. And then we looked and there were hundreds of people watching. And that was a unique, weird, like, okay, that's a big crowd, but we don't see any of them. We don't know who's out there either. It could be literally anyone. So it was like, and yeah, that was definitely that definitely brought us up a notch, like we were like, oh, we got put on a big show, now. I mean, it's so weird being in a backyard and the neighbors' kids were peeking over the fence. And it was probably one of the coolest memories I've got of playing music, especially for it to happen during that time where everything was so up in the air, it was much needed. So
we've got Ross Flora with us today. He joins us here on our big program. So what has been the worst performance that you've had?
Man, that's a tough question. I try not to ever look at them in terms of bad or good. I look at them as like, okay, if you did something bad, then, if you use it as a chance to learn something from it, then it wasn't, necessarily a bad experience. But it's been a while since I've had a show that I just walked away from that wasn't any fun and that I didn't feel like I learned much. Probably when I was first starting out. I did have this one gig where everything went a little haywire when I was first starting out. I was on the road and it was a group, it was a stranger. Everybody was strangers, it was one of my first experiences doing that. I was like 16 or 17 and I had something go wrong with one of my pedals and it was the first time that had happened in a live environment and I was playing a solo show and couldn't get that. The pedal started making a lot of noise. It was a looper pedal and it was just going haywire on me and reached down and I knocked my mic around and of course the boom mic went around in front of the mains and started squealing and it was just a mess and I had to all of it just ripped the entire power plug out. I was just like, wow. Oh no. And it was right there at the end of the show too, where I was like, it was right in like banger hour, as I call it, where you're just hitting all all the high ones. This is like where you're really selling it at the end of the show. And I, and I lost them all. They're all just, quit paying attention. And I was like, oh man. But then again, I learned a lot from that. So it wasn't necessarily all bad there. So.
Ross Flora with us today. He joins us live. He's got Cannonball, which is a amazing track. We're going to actually play that here in a few moments. Tell me a little bit about Cannonball.
So Cannonball came together as a guitar riff first. I had that da-da, that you'll hear in a second. And it was, just fooling around, I was like, I'd like to write a rock song today, so I came up with that riff. And I was like, that kind of sounds, all right, what is that saying to me? It kind of sounds like a motor, it kind of got that popcorn Harley Davidson sound to it, almost. And then from there, I was like, oh, well, I've had this one line, blue lights in the mirror, 120 on the dash. I've had that in my head for a long time. I could never find the right place in a song to put it. That's been in my mind for a year or two now. I was like, oh, that would be a good first line on this. So let's use that. And then from there on out, I just kind of channeled I got these two neighbors back home in Virginia, Craig and Troy, and they're just wild. I mean, they're fearless when it comes to anything with engines. Like, I don't know if it's they don't have any sense, but I think it's just that they're fearless. I mean, they don't love them saying this, but they, so I was just like, man, what would that be? All right, I could see one of them just hauling tail off a Windy Gap, which is where I'm from, this mountain pass that's just nothing but, 180s and twisties all through it, the roads. And you could see him like, not necessarily robbing a bank or, doing, running from the law, but, something a little less, like maybe like, they were speeding or something. And then they, were just tearing off and seeing what the car could do and, with the, playing with the law. But so that's where it really started, and yeah, so it's kind of just all came together. I wrote that in the night, and that one was one of those easier ones that don't happen very often. So,
well, we are going to do this. I'm going to place you on a brief hold here on Skype. We're going to go ahead and play the track, and when we come back, we'll have more with Ross Flora. Right now, it is Cannonball, and it's here on your big program, Coast to Coast, right now.
Lights in the mirror, 120 on the dash, 12 gauge riding shotgun, back in the back full of cash. No time now to reconcile, your life comes at you fast. I got 2 more miles and 1 wrong turn before I lose them at the pass. Oh, I've been down this road before, this ain't my curtain call. I play my hand like any man, not afraid to lose it all. You better get your house in order, pride comes before the fall. You can try to stand your ground, but I'm coming off of this mountain like a cannonball. Just like a bird flies south, knowing winter's coming soon. I keep my wheels a-rolling, cause they hang my kind at noon. I tried to live a life they said was right, but I got no silver spoon. So I won't stop my running till they put me in a tune. Oh, I've been down this road before, this ain't my curtain call. I play my hand like any man, not afraid to lose it all. Better get your house in order, pride comes before the fall. You can try to stand your ground, but I'm coming off of this mountain like a cannonball.
Cannonball. It is Ross Flora, and he joins us today here on our big program. We're going to go back live to Ross Flora. He joins us here on the old Skype. Yes, the old Skype-a-rooney. And Ross Flora is back with us. That is his latest single. It's called Cannonball, and it really is a fantastic tune. I was listening to that tune, brother, and I'm like, why aren't you a bigger frickin' deal than you are?
Oh, well, appreciate that.
That's quite the deal. So, Ross, where do we connect with you online to buy your music and help support your efforts?
So you can hear the song on Apple Music and Spotify and all the streaming services wherever you get your music. And like I say, you can reach out Instagram, Facebook, ross-flora.com, and all those above. And
Fantastic. Ross Flora with us today. He joins us live here on our big broadcast. So, tell me a little bit about some of your upcoming performances and just your upcoming release schedule and all the various things you got coming up, brother.
Okay. Well, I usually here in Nashville, I'm running I have a usual normal week schedule here that I play in clubs around here in town. So you can always go find me down there. I've got some interesting road gigs coming up, some kind of showcase stuff, but nothing up until really the EP comes out. So which hopefully in mid-June. But like I say, from there on out, I'll be trying to hit the road and doing that a little more. So
fantastic. Well, I appreciate it, my friend. Thanks for doing this. This has been a fantastic piece of business. Thanks for coming on and bringing us Cannonball, and we will talk to you soon. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you, Ross.
Well, thank you, Jiggy. Have a good one.
Appreciate it, brother. There he goes. That is Ross Flora, and he joins us today here on our big program. And that about wraps it up here from our big broadcast.